Before we begin, we would like to provide a few content warnings for this episode. While not overly explicit, this episode does talk about abusive relationships, including underage grooming, gaslighting and manipulation, men being creepy, and mental health. There will be timestamps in the episode description if you'd like to skip these parts, or if you'd rather avoid this episode entirely, we completely understand. We value our audience and would rather you come back next week if you need to, so thank you. Now on to the show. Hello, everybody! Apparently, that is now my intro words with the same inflection. I think I'm just going to stick with it because that is wonderful. But that being said, welcome to the XP Billionaires podcast. My name is Rafe Thegram. I am joined by Sky Knight, the Mel Zerker, and lots of opinions. They're all brewing within our heads, and we're going to share some of them with you today. So let's say hello to the team. Sky, how are you doing today?
I'm okay. Kind of chill. I have done virtually nothing today, and yeah, I'm tired.
Would you say you are a chill penguin?
Well, I'm chill and I'm, actually cold too, so maybe?
Okay, cool. Sorry, that's just a little Mega Man humor for those familiar. Chill Penguin was the name of one of the bosses from Mega Man X, the very first one.
Yes, I thought it sounded familiar, but I don't know Mega Man.
Yeah, we got to rectify that somehow. I know you're not big on platformers, but I don't know. At the very least, the X lore is really good, and I always enjoyed it. So,
To clarify for the listeners, I have nothing against platforms. It's just that I am so dreadful at them that they're not worth the price of entry to me.
but it's the same thing I've said before. You were like platformers were one of like the first major video game genres that were out from like the early Nintendo days. So because you didn't get that exposure when you were young, you didn't get the practice. And even if you say you're not overly great at them and you don't think you could be, I think you could still be way better than you are if you got some more of that practice in.
Yeah, yeah. Someday I will beat Chemical Plant Zone in Sonic 2.
But
Someday.
see that's an exception to every rule. Chemical Plant Zone sucks apart from the music.
Yeah, the music's amazing.
All right, Mel, how are you doing today?
I'm okay. It's actually been a pretty busy day here, so I'm just trying to get my head on straight for the week ahead. But yeah, I'm just trying to keep it all going so nothing falls apart.
Well, that would be the last thing we want from you. So
Right?
It's nice that you're able to do that. And worst case, if you start falling apart, I've heard duct tape works really well. So
and I have some really pretty duct tape. Like I'm a crafter, so I've got some nice duct tape.
awesome. I love it. All right. Well, why don't we just jump right on in this week? We are finishing up February. By the time this episode releases, it'll just be about the end of the month. We've been doing a couple of Valentine's Day related episodes since Valentine's Day weekend. So we're just going to wrap February up with one last episode related to it. So we do so many episodes because we just had so many different fun ideas this year. So that's kind of why we wanted to keep it going. But this time, we're going to talk about something that everybody likes to do with characters in video games, and that is shipping them.
Woo!
I will go down with this ship.
As many do in some arguments I've seen online.
Glug, 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 glug.
Now, we were thinking about ways we could do this. We could just gush about our favorites. We could have a top 3. But I think in the end, we landed on one really, really enjoyable way to tackle this particular episode.
It's time for another good idea, bad idea.
That's right. This week, we are going to talk about some of the best and worst relationships and shipping in RPG gaming. Now, the characters themselves don't necessarily need to be playable, but as long as there is an option for that romantic relationship. So that does include selectable romanceable characters. So it doesn't have to be a canon pairing, but as long as the pairing is possible in the game, then we've included it. So, good idea, bad idea format. It's the same as before. We're each going to go one at a time. We're going to discuss the good and the bad of each person when their turn comes up. And to cap things all off, we are going to start with Mel. You drew the short straw this week, so hope you got some water ready because you're going to be talking.
Why is it short straw? I get to be the most important. I get to be listed first.
I guess that's a good way to put it. Yes, absolutely.
First. Okay, all right, here we go. So I'm going to talk about my favorite, or one of my favorite relationships in RPGs. And the one that came to mind for me is from the game To the Moon, which you guys have probably heard me talk about before as one of my favorites. And I'm going to talk about Johnny and River, because this game and this relationship broke me in all of the best ways. I'm always a fan of games about death and what comes after, it seems, because this is a recurring theme. Like, I hear about it and I'm like, I'm going to play that game. So this is a game about two scientists who go into dying people's minds, and in the final moments of their life, they change their memories so they think they fulfilled their lifelong dream. The idea is that then they'll die happy, right? It's kind of a rich person approach to how you deal with, not succeeding on your life. So the character whose mind you're going into in this game is Johnny, and Johnny dreamed of being an astronaut, hence To the Moon. So the game, you start progressing back through his memories, and at the beginning you just see this old man in a bed, and as you start going through his childhood and working your way back deeper into his memories, you start to realize that the decision to do this is maybe less justified than you thought it was to begin with. I can't get into all the details because I'll spoil the game. But needless to say, Johnny and his predeceased wife, River, have this most amazing, beautiful love story. And you kind of go into it from reverse, like from them as old people to when they met as, kids. And the thing I love about this relationship is it's a real relationship. Like, they have misunderstandings. There are missed opportunities. There's moments of heartbreak where you're just like, this is really, really rough. And then there's also these moments of like real caring and compassion and connection with people, where the two of them have this connection that just is unmatched by anyone else in either of their lives. And I think that's what I love about this relationship, is a lot of games will romanticize a relationship or be like, this couple is perfect. And this represents like what a real relationship is, like that it's not, even for these people who were, made for each other, seem like the perfect couple, there were problems. And I think that's what makes it such a strong story and what a great relationship. So that's my good idea, is Johnny and River from To the Moon.
That's great, because often video games really gloss over the more realistic aspects of a relationship. Either it's just really surface or they just leave everything as subtext.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's nice to see things as they are and, for it to be emphasized.
Yeah, I agree, obviously. I think this is a problem like across a lot of genres of stuff, right? Is that we tell stories about how we want them to be, and like sometimes like the best thing is that like raw human bit where like, yeah, someone said something that maybe they shouldn't have said, but that's what we do, unfortunately, because we're not perfect.
Yeah, and even people tend to say things too that they don't mean.
Mm-hmm.
In the heat of the moment. And yeah,
I'm also done it with all these like gaslighting guys and stories who like end up getting like being love interests. Like, come on, he's a jerk. I don't care how traumatized he is.
Well, that's just it, right? Like the whole cliche of the woman trying to fix the man's problems.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, come on. Yes, I mean, change is a part of a relationship, but it has to be organic. You can't go into a relationship wanting to change someone.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's yeah, I completely agree with all of that. Yeah, I honestly I hadn't heard about this game until I saw a sequel for or a trailer for the sequel coming out on the Switch later on this summer, Finding Paradise. So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize exactly how story driven it was going to be. So, you know, that caught my attention. So it'd be really nice to give this a shot at some point too. So yeah, no, you've made it even more compelling. So
Yeah, yeah. It's a great storyteller, great creator. So check out their other games as well. I've played pretty much all of them. So yeah.
no, awesome. All right, well, go on and tell me which one you hate.
All right. My bad idea. I'm going to swing entirely in the opposite direction, and I'm going to talk about Beyond Two Souls, and the main character Jodie and her boyfriend, which is canon, unfortunately, Ryan. So people who like even are a little bit light on the video game kind of news field probably remember hearing about this game when it came out back in like 2013. So it starred Elliot Page and Willem Dafoe in the main roles, and it was it was premiered at a film festival at the time. So they were like, oh, look at this game. It's going to be a whole new world for people who aren't into video games, and anyone can play it. So it had a lot of background stuff going into it. And like overall, I think the gameplay is super, super fun. But I think some of the story writing, and especially this relationship, is not great. So there is a really good dynamic in this game, and it's between Jodie, the main character, and the spirit that's bonded to her, who is Aiden. And if you play this game two-player, which is I highly recommend, this is an excellent game to play two-player. The second player plays as Aiden, and you're connected your whole lives, and you watch as Jodie basically falls for this guy he's just a complete asshole. Like he recruits her when she's a teenager for people who want to experiment on her. He's like twice her age, and you know, he's always manipulating her, and even when she questions things and says like, you know, I don't know about this or this feels wrong, he wraps around her head and convinces her it's something she has to do. So he's this like manipulative asshole who's just like, oh, I was ordered to do it, so it's fine. And you know, he's the only guy she knows besides her surrogate father, so it's not like she has a lot of options. It's really manipulative. He's already been married and divorced, and she's, you know, fairly young. And it's just a really gross relationship the whole way around. The nice part of this is if you are playing two-player and you have someone playing as Aiden, you can actually like try to ruin their date and like fuck him up, which I really, really enjoyed doing because it's really hard not to want to ruin their relationship, even if she's going to yell at you later, because she is just being manipulated by this guy and gaslit by him, and she has no idea.
Yeah, those relationships like that are super toxic. I am really hesitant, you know, about those sorts of relationships. You know, a younger woman with with a bit of an older man.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the age difference isn't huge, and even if she's legal, it can get ugly because, you know, one party simply doesn't have the life experience to realize when the other is being a shithead.
Yeah,
You know, a
exactly.
manipulative piece of crap. And you know, I've seen situations like that in real life play out poorly, very poorly, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it's kind of interesting because it is like it sounds like a realistic portrayal of things that happen, but man, do you hate to see it happen.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I just looked it up to see what the age range difference is here. So this is a game where you play her at various points in her life. So you get kind of like you meet her when she's 8. And that's like the very beginning. And then you go through 17 years of her life, so until she's 25. And he is 13 years older than her. So they meet when she's 8 and he's 21, and it continues.
Okay, that's
with that.
super creepy.
Yeah, I would agree.
And they want you, like, this is the relation.
This is the canon relationship. Like, in the end, this is the romance.
You, David Cage, you.
Yeah, I feel it's weird because I feel like this is going to be a bit of a pattern today. At least, like, I've got something almost similar, at least in terms of age difference. The only problem is I'm not 100% sure what that difference is, but it'll definitely it's still definitely creepy.
Yeah. Like, I mean, when you get to the older ages, it's like, okay, fine. People, when you're, see, the thing is, like, when you're older, it matters less, right? Like, being 10 years apart when you're like 60 isn't as big a deal as when you're, 20. And it's just the way that this game is presenting it. It really frames it like she's being almost like, I don't know, groomed in some ways.
It sounds like grooming.
It's pretty.
If she first met the guy when she was 8.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I haven't played this game in a long time. It's been like 8 years since it came out. So I wonder if I had the language at the time when I played this game to communicate just how gross I found it. I wonder if I played it again, if I would be like, okay, this is exactly what's happening in this situation.
It's always hard to make that determination years after the fact. Like, was I at a point when I played this where I could look at it the same way I would now?
Exactly. Like, at the time, I was like, this is kind of gross. And then I was looking through kind of games I've played to see about this topic. I was like, oh, this one now strikes me. But if you'd asked me about it just like casually, I don't know if I would have thought about it. So, anyways, that's David Cage, y'all.
Yeah. Well, that's the glory of these discussions, right? It makes us think about games we've played in different ways.
Yeah. So that's me. There you go. I've eaten up so much of the time talking about it, but thank you for letting me talk about how gross I found this relationship. And there is the good ending, quote unquote, where you get married and run off with him. So, yeah, I'll spoil that for you because that's bullshit.
Fair enough. Alrighty, so that is definitely a good set and a very, very bad set of relationship goals there. So hopefully you kind of get to see that through those eyes. We're gonna move on to my set next. So for my good idea, I actually picked 2 NPCs. I actually picked a relationship that was not playable whatsoever because it felt like one of the best relationships I've seen in a video game, regardless of how tragic it was. That relationship is from Ferret and Arstadt from Suikoden 5.
Note there will be spoilers in this section for people who haven't played the game.
Absolutely, there will be. I was going to get to that, but thank you. I appreciate it. So basically, I mean, this was the royal couple worth worshiping. Like, this is the king and queen of Falena. Now, they got together under a very strange set of circumstances rather than meeting, falling for one another, or anything like that. Ferd actually won his way to marrying Arstadt through a tournament called the Sacred Games, which is a tradition in Falena. That's how the queen gets married off. Since the Falena is a queendom, the king has less power than the queen, but still gets to be a ruler.
Well, there's not even really like a king per se. Like, they don't have, as far as I could tell from the game, they don't have that title. You're like, Ferret is the husband of the queen.
Okay. But regardless, I mean, the fact of the matter is that they still ended up actually falling in love. So it wasn't just, a political power gain or a way to influence change or anything like that. There was actually a romance between the two. They got married, and while they did have children, they had 2 very wonderful children, I should say, in terms of the prince and Limslia. And it just, you could tell between the 2 of them that they were meant for each other. And more to the point, like when Arshtat decided to wield the Sun Rune when Felina was being attacked, like Farron knew that at some point he might have to die for her, and he was willing to do so in such a willing fashion. Like there was some pure hard devotion in this relationship. And I mean, here's the big spoiler: he does die. Uh, basically he gets killed by her own hand, or I guess in some ways the Sun Rune's hand. But I just remember that scene. Farid gets one last look at her before he dies, and there was no hatred, no remorse, no sadness, just that last look of care and love that he had for his wife. Like that really feels like, a textbook definition of relationship goals, if you ask me.
It's so good, and like one of the things that always gets me is that, well, I really feel like he's trying to say something to her at the end, and I honestly, it seems like it was just something like "I love you," right before he died. And the second part is that the reason he died at her hand is because the Sun Rune was driving her mad, and she snaps out of it once briefly right after she kills him, and the despair in her face before the Sun Rune takes her back over again. It's just like it's one of the most heart-wrenching scenes in video games, like especially since you've spent the last several hours learning what wonderful people they are.
Yeah, and it was a lot of hours. I mean, this whole bit didn't really kick in until much later on. And even then, the actual details of it, where you get to see the scene where Farad dies, isn't until I'd say over halfway through the game.
Yeah.
You hear about the death, but you don't get the flashback scene until much later.
See, people complain about the long lead up in the beginning of Suikoden 5, and I maintain, and I would die on this hill, that every second of it was necessary.
Yeah. It really drove things home.
Yeah, like that scene wouldn't have been nearly so impactful had we not had that lead up into the events that led to this situation playing out.
Yeah, and especially why we got the flashback scene, because it was more than just because of Farad's death. It was also what happened immediately afterwards too. So I don't want to spoil that part, but like you guys know exactly what I'm talking about if you played Suikoden 5. So
yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, there's my relationship goals. I think we've been doing a pretty good job, Sky. I don't know about you, but I feel like we've been pretty close.
I figure we're all right. Not to toot our own horns or anything.
No. That's why I didn't say we're the best. So you're doing pretty good, All right, so moving on to my bad idea, and let's talk about another incredibly toxic and manipulative relationship, and that comes from Shion and Kevin from the Xenosaga series. So this one you don't even really figure out is that toxic until the third game, because you see Kevin in this very, very positive light throughout the first game, leading right up into his quote unquote death. But the third game rolls around and you find out that one, technically he's not actually dead, and two, like this entire relationship that he's had for Shion was basically to manipulate her, make sure that she focused on finishing Cosmos, the tool he needed to go through with what the Testament's plans were for the final game. And basically letting Cosmos kill him in one of the test runs of her was one of those ways to just kind of put him on some sort of pedestal where she was completely blinded by her devotion. When he reveals himself in the third game, she basically starts following him. She sides with him again. You end up having a boss fight where you have to fight her and Kevin together at one point until she can snap out of it. And I remember it takes him beating the hell out of Alan to snap out of it, because that's at that point when he starts really showing his true colors. But all these flashbacks that you see as that game progresses, he was just a dick right from the beginning. I mean, he met Shion when she was a little girl, and he was, I guess, late teens. So I'm not even sure what the age gap is here. I'm going to say anywhere from 8 to 10 years minimum. I can't say for certain. I haven't really looked that up, unfortunately. But yeah, he had a plan from the very beginning, and he essentially used Shion for that, and was more than happy to discard her when she wouldn't side with him anymore. Like she was just a tool rather than a person, and it was disgusting.
He was a fair bit older. It's kind of hard to parse considering, but 7, 8 years, something like that.
Yeah. I was thinking somewhere around that line, but he just, ugh.
Yeah. I'm looking at some dates. That's what it looks like.
Okay.
It's just the fact that he's technically considered dead at one point. Yeah, 6. Actually, it's 6 years.
Only 6. Okay.
Yeah,
So I guess, still not nearly as bad as, say, Mel's bad idea, but at the same time, like, he's still a complete asswipe.
It's ranges of gross. Shades of gross.
There's a great spoof movie title, 50 Shades of Gross.
Yeah, no kidding. And she was just a mess over him. Like, he had her wrapped around his pinky finger.
Oh, he knew it.
And he knew, yeah, he took advantage of it.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely disgusting. So those are mine. I really, really happy with my good idea. Really, really disgusted at my bad idea. Definitely feel like I did the right thing. So, all right, we got one more set to look at, and that's coming from Sky. So let's hear your good idea.
All right. Well, my good idea is Arnis and Lilise from Knights of Azure. One of the few, like, truly canon lesbian pairings in JRPGs. I love them. They're very, very sweet together. Like, and they're not super demonstrative, but like, they just look at each other all the time like they think each other is the best person in the world. And Arnis is going out and slaying demons and, like, practically becoming a demon herself. But she's always got Lilise to come home to, and Lilise is sweet and bubbly and kind of clumsy, and you can tell she's a bit of an anchor for Arnis's humanity. Now, what Arnis is actually tasked with doing is protecting Lilise, who she met years ago at boarding school, I believe. And protecting her until she can fulfill her role. She's what they call a saint. And the end goal is for her to sacrifice herself to seal the entity known as the Night Lord, which is like the granddaddy of all demons, basically. One of the things I really love about this whole situation is that Arnis actually isn't that conflicted about the whole thing. Like, she refuses to give up on Lilise. When push comes to shove, she's looking for a way to keep Lilise alive, despite the fact Lilise has accepted her role, and still Arnis is, protecting her too, right? Because there's kind of this. Arnis is in this strange position of, like, yeah, gotta protect Lilise until, we have to end her life for this great cause. And Lilise is just like, yeah, I'll protect Arnis, but no, no, she's staying alive. Like, screw this. But she's not conflicted about it. She's not like even super loud about it. Like Arnis is just one of the chillest people imaginable in a lot of ways. Like she's very chill and serious, but also like polite and gentle natured in her own way. So the two of them, they're like it's almost cavity inducing. Like they're so cute. I love these two so much.
Yeah, I remember you playing that game fairly hard and getting through it. And
yeah, I mean it's a Gust game, you know, same people who do Atelier. And in usual fashion, you know, it's not a terribly long game. Very early PS4 title. In fact, I think I bought this. We had ordered this game before we actually got our PS4 because I was just like, I have to own this.
Oh,
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So
That was the one. Oh my god. I was trying to remember what game that was that we
Yes.
bought. We also did it with the Wii U. We got Xenoblade X or the original Xenoblade. I can't remember which, but it was one or the other. I think it was. Oh no, it was Xenoblade X. We got it before we got the Wii U because we wanted like the big special edition one.
Let's be honest, it was a good purchase.
Oh, Xenoblade X was amazing. Knights of Azure was also great. You know, when we pick them good. So yeah.
Yeah, I was really happy with this, and I still have to go back and play the sequel that came out.
I was actually going to suggest that maybe after you're done with Skies.
Yeah, I would like to do it. If not super soon, then at least this year. I want to get that out of my backlog because I think I stopped playing because it was like I was having issues with my tendonitis, and it was because it's even more actiony than the first game. I was having trouble with it, with playing the game and managing my pain, but
No,
I think I could
enough.
give it another try now.
Awesome.
So, bad idea.
Yep.
Yeah, this one's special. And
aren't
maybe
they all
slightly controversial because I know people actually like this too, but I'm gonna go with Kroy and Luca from Artanelico 2. Now, the only saving grace is that this couple can, like, them getting together in a permanent fashion can be avoided entirely because you do have the option of Cloche and Jackley. And I picked Cloche because I love Cloche, but also because Luca's actions towards Kroy are unconscionable. She's manipulative and two-faced. And if Kroy had more sense, he would not have forgiven her for it. Like, she's so full of crap. She basically played with Kroy's feelings to get herself closer to the organization he was working for because she was looking for her sister who had been taken by them. And I don't care. She had no right to play with Kroy's feelings the way she did. And he's a good guy. Had she dealt straight with him, he probably would have helped her. This sort of betrayal of trust, and they had known each other for years, like he had been practically adopted into her family. So the fact that she was just so manipulative and two-faced, like no, sorry, it's a complete deal breaker for me. And it's no basis for a serious relationship. So yeah, they're my bad idea. I just like Kroy's fine. I like him well enough. And in fact, I would say he's my favorite of the protagonists from that series. But no, not Luca. Not Luca.
Yeah, fair enough. When I played the game, I actually ended up picking Luca, but I didn't really understand at the time where the divide was that was really going to make a significant level of choice for me. So it just ended
Yeah,
up kind of happening that way because I played this game blind without having played like the first one and kind of having an understanding of how the game worked and things like that. But yeah, you're right. Like she wasn't a very I didn't find her to be that great of a character to begin with.
and
So, and then regardless of the relationship, it just didn't really do it. She didn't do it for me at all, but I ended up getting stuck with her. So,
well, yeah, I mean, we didn't know anything about this series when you played it because, I mean, you were the first of the two of us to play this one, and like you said, we didn't even have the first one. I didn't play these right away because when I saw you play it, I thought, okay, you know what, let's get the first one, and then I'll try this out, right?
yeah.
But yeah, I just remember getting so pissed off at Luca. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I mean, one of the most interesting things about Art Nellico 2 is that the heroines are really flawed. They all have problems. Those problems are not insignificant. That's a good word for it. The thing is that the difference between someone like Luca and someone like Cloche is that Cloche, you see her issues immediately, and then you start to realize that she has definite reasons that make sense. And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't take much affection and normalcy injected into her life to improve her relationships and behavior. Luca presents all nice and sweet and, like helpful to other people. And then you realize that she's not a great person. And it's kind of gross.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right. So that is going to be it for our discussion of good and bad RPG relationships. I feel like there was a theme in all the bad ideas, and I think all of the good ideas were varied and a little bit different each time, which I think is really great. So, really enjoyed that this week. I hope you guys did too. If you guys have any other pairings you want to discuss or talk about, please do so. You can hit us up through our group email, xpbillionaires@gmail.com, or you can check us out on social media. You can find me on Twitter at billionairesxp or on my Gunpla Instagram at Rafe Sky, where can everyone find you?
I'm at SkyKnightXP on Twitter and skyknight.xp on Instagram.
And Mel, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Feminist Gamer or Twitter at FeministGamer3. And you can check out my D&D game that's on Twitch every Wednesday called Darkness and Dragons.
Awesome. Look forward to all of that. And don't forget to check out everything else that we do through our website, xpbillionaires.ca, written work, quickfire reviews, writing roundups of some great articles found by Sky Knight themselves. And if you are feeling so kind as to help us out financially, we have links there available on the website as well. So definitely check those out. All right, so that is going to be it for us this week. So all I can tell you is to remember to keep gaming as long as you are not neglecting your partner. It's very important. All right, we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Bye-bye.